भाई इनको शामिल किया जा सकता है। वो अगर वो आग्रह के साथ हमारे साथ आ रहे हैं, हमारे साथ काम करना चाह रहे हैं, कांग्रेस पार्टी में उनको लग रहा है उनका भविष्य समाप्त हो गया, उनका भविष्य कुछ बचा नहीं हुआ, तो ऐसे में निश्चित रूप से उनका स्वागत हुआ है। लेकिन हम सभी को नहीं ले पा रहे हैं जैसे वो चाह रहे हैं। लेकिन कुछ लोग जो हमारी पार्टी में आ रहे हैं उनका स्वागत करते हैं। अभी देखिए, अभी हाल ही में कांग्रेस पार्टी के 2 वर्किंग प्रेसिडेंट थे, वो दोनों वर्किंग प्रेसिडेंट कांग्रेस छोड़ के भाजपा में शामिल हुए।
जयराम ठाकुर जी, अगर दिसंबर 8 को बीजेपी की जीत होती है, आर यू श्योर यू विल बी द नेक्स्ट चीफ मिनिस्टर? क्योंकि आपके पार्टी के अंदर के एक सेक्शन है जो मुख्यमंत्री बदलना चाहते हैं, कई दावेदार हैं। आर यू कॉन्फिडेंट? क्या आपको पूरा विश्वास है आप ही मुख्यमंत्री रहेंगे अगर बीजेपी की जीत होती है?
देखिए, ये निर्णय मेरी पार्टी करती है, मेरे पार्टी का नेतृत्व करता है। मेरे जिम्मे काम है हिमाचल में पार्टी को सत्ता में लाने के लिए काम करना, मैं वो काम कर रहा हूं।
मेरा आखिरी सवाल जयराम ठाकुर जी, अगर बीजेपी चुनाव आपके नाम पर लड़ रही है या प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी के नाम पर लड़ रही है? इसी इंटरव्यू में यू हैव यूज्ड मिस्टर मोदीज नेम 3-4 टाइम्स ऑलरेडी। हमने सुना है कि कल जब मोदी जी की रैली हुई थी और वो वहां पहुंचे थे तो ये नारे लग रहे थे, शेर आया, शेर आया। तो पूरा आपका भरोसा एक तरह से लगता है मोदी जी पर है ज्यादा और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट पर कम।
देखिए, नरेंद्र मोदी जी हमारे देश के प्रधानमंत्री हैं, मजबूत नेता हैं, शेर की तरह चलते हैं, शेर की तरह काम करते हैं। और नौजवानों ने ये संज्ञा दी तो स्वाभाविक रूप से वो उनके काम के साथ से उनके जो सारी बॉडी लैंग्वेज के हिसाब से जो है वो मेल खाती है। और निश्चित रूप से उनका अभिनंदन हुआ, स्वागत हुआ है। और स्वागत में इस तरह का नारा लगना, मुझे लगता है कोई भी इसमें किसी को कोई आपत्ति नहीं होनी चाहिए। और दूसरी बात, जहां तक आप कह रहे हैं कि हम सामूहिक हो करके सब काम करते हैं, नरेंद्र मोदी जी हमारे नेता हैं और उनका नेतृत्व देश के लिए जिस प्रकार से मिला और हिमाचल के साथ जिस प्रकार का उनका एक भावनात्मक एक रिश्ता है, ये तमाम सारी बातें जुड़ेंगी जिससे भाजपा का रास्ता सरल होगा, सहज होगा।
चलिए जयराम ठाकुर जी, वी विश यू वेल। We will wait and see what happens in Himachal Pradesh. पर आप शो पर आए, thank you very much for joining me on a day when Himachal's election schedule has been announced. Chief Minister of Himachal Pradesh at 9 p.m. We try and get you the newsmaker every night. Let's turn from there. Since elections are in the air, guess what? Electoral bonds are back. The Supreme Court finally started hearing the petitions challenging electoral bonds. Electoral bonds, remember, are the way in which political parties can finance their election campaign. I'll explain that later in the show. But today, the Modi government strongly defended these bonds, saying they have made the funding of political parties transparent. The petitioners, however, are claiming that the entire electoral bond system is being used by the Modi government to garner maximum resources and turn the election in their favor. The court will next hear the case in December, but what happened today? Here's a report.
Nearly 5 years after petitions were filed challenging electoral bonds, the Supreme Court resumed hearing them on Friday. The bonds, pitched as a substitute to cash donations made to political parties, was to bring transparency, but is ironically facing criticism for being opaque. However, Solicitor General Tushar Mehta, representing the central government in the court, backed the electoral bonds, calling them completely transparent. Senior lawyers Prashant Bhushan and Kapil Sibal, representing the petitioners, which include the Association for Democratic Reforms and CPM, argued there is anonymity involved in the electoral bond scheme. Taking a jibe at the government, Bhushan said, government issues bonds before every assembly elections. The Narendra Modi government and opposition have locked horns over electoral bonds ever since it was launched in 2017.
Government is moving in the right direction, that electoral bonds are a good instrument to check and establish audit trail on how political parties collect funds and how corporate sector finances the political parties.
The Association for Democratic Reforms also claims the bonds are anything but transparent.
I am afraid to say that the statement of the Solicitor General is not correct. The bonds are nowhere near transparent. The finance minister himself said the same day that he introduced the bonds, that bonds will be anonymous in character.
Electoral bonds sold 4 times a year allow political parties to accept money from donors whose identities are kept anonymous. These can be sold in multiples of 1,000 rupees, 10,000 rupees, 1 lakh, 10 lakh and 1 crore rupees.
Petitions challenging the validity of the electoral bond system have been pending for over 7 years now in the Supreme Court. Once again today, it was pointed out that the opaque electoral bond system as well as the amendments to the FCRA which allow contributions from foreign companies are a danger to Indian democracy. The Supreme Court has for now said that it will hear the matter on December 6th.
Bureau Report, India Today.
So before we go into our debate, let me explain electoral bonds as simply as possible for our viewers. The State Bank of India, under the scheme, issues bonds valued up to rupees 1 crore each. Donors buy these bonds from the State Bank of India. The donors then give these bonds to political parties. The parties encash the bonds. Significantly, only the government, the State Bank of India and the Ministry of Finance will know which donor is giving the bonds to whom. You and I have no idea about who's getting it. Even the opposition parties don't know about it, which is why I want to raise the questions. Electoral bonds, are they opaque or transparent? Is the electoral bond system shrouded in secrecy? Why should the donor details be hidden? Do electoral bonds hugely favor the ruling party in the country? Joining me now, Syed Zafar Islam, the BJP spokesperson, Trilochan Shastri, Chairman, Association for Democratic Reforms, that's taken this matter to the Supreme Court. Anshul Abjit is Congress spokesperson, and Sanjay Hegde, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court. Let me come to you first, Trilochan Shastri, because Professor Shastri, the Association of Democratic Reforms for the longest time has been saying we need to make our election system, particularly funding, more transparent. When the electoral bond system first came in, I didn't see the same objections then as I see today. Is the system flawed? Did we get it wrong? Why is it that today there is this outcry that these electoral bonds are completely opaque and are in a way preventing a level playing field politically?
Very good question, Rajdeep, and thanks for raising this issue. Actually, the public, the voting public, should know who is funding the political parties. And the electoral bonds do not allow that. Therefore, they are completely opaque, and no other democratic country in the world has this kind of a system. So, we are not claiming legally that this favors one party or the other. What we are saying is voters have a right to know who is funding whom, and the electoral bond system does not allow that at all. Earlier, when the political parties were forced by the Central Information Commission, they had to declare who is funding them, and that information was available in the public domain. Now, under the electoral bonds, it's no longer available. It's as simple as that. I mean, I think we are making it too complicated. It's very, very simple.
No, so are you saying, Professor Shastri, correct me if I'm wrong, are you saying that you have no problems with the electoral bond system as long as whoever is actually buying those bonds and which party they are given to is made public in some form? It's more about making those payments public?
We want transparency on both sides. From whom are the parties receiving money, how much are they receiving, and who is funding them. So once this is made public, whether it is through the bonds or directly online through the banks, we have no objection. It is the opaqueness and the secrecy which is a serious problem.
Sanjay Hegde?
And I mean, I just want to take a minute.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Please finish, Professor.
1 minute I'll take. See, the public and the voters need to understand that if we do not know who is funding the political parties, then big money interests shall fund political parties, and then the government policies and various other schemes will be tailored to help those who are funding them rather than the public. So this is a vitiation of democracy, and this is not allowed in any other country. There are limits, and this foreign funding of political parties is another big problem, because the very independence and that we've struggled so hard. Today we are on the 75th anniversary of independence. If we are going to have foreign funding through some clever legal means, that is completely against the spirit of freedom that we are celebrating today.
Let me take that to you, Sanjay Hegde, because it's interesting. The Supreme Court has sat on this matter for the last, 4 years, 3 years now. Now, finally,
No,
5 years? 5 years. They've sat on it for 5 years. So after 5 years, the matter has come up. Do you believe that the court should have dealt with this much earlier? Several elections have passed in the last 5 years, and the bond system, which is now being heavily criticized, continues. Should the court have acted much earlier, Mr. Hegde?
Well, the court ought to have acted much earlier, but the court has its own constraints as well. Very often in these technical matters, it takes time to understand. The second thing is that
5
you
years?
had Corona over 2
sorry,
years.
Mr.
You had a
Hegde.
period of...
It doesn't take 5 years for the court to understand, surely?
No, it doesn't take 5 years for an institution to understand, but you must appreciate that the Supreme Court has a high turnover of judges. For a Chief Justice to tie down a bench and finish this matter, maybe the Chief Justice of the day of the past Chief Justices had different priorities. Mm-hmm. Yes, now the matters are listed. They are now to be heard on the 6th of December. And hopefully, once the process starts of a hearing, it goes to completion. So we have some kind of finality. Mm-hmm. I do agree with the professor as to the question of opacity. They are opaque insofar as the public are concerned. Mm-hmm. But there are also ways where the government of the day might even know who the donors are. Supposing somebody buys bonds from the State Bank of India and then gives it to party X, which is opposed to the government. Mm-hmm. If you tally the numbers of the bonds, who has that information? Is it opaque enough to prevent government vendetta? We do not really know. This is an additional problem to the problems that the professor has indicated to you.
So in a way, the government has access in a way to the list of donors in a way that the opposition will never have. The other point, and this is Syed Zafar Islam, the fact on the ground, funds via electoral bonds 2019-20, and I'll put that chart again. BJP got 2,555 crores, Congress next 318, TMC 100, DMK 45 crores, Shiv Sena 41, NCP 29, AAP 18. Just imagine, one party is getting 2,555 crores, the next is 318. I mean, how do you have a free and fair election?
Rajdeep, can I request you to put another chart?
Yes.
And I think it is important for the viewer to know how many elected representatives BJP has and how many these parties have. So it is important for people to know that BJP has the maximum number of MPs, both in Rajya Sabha as well as in Lok Sabha. They have maximum number of MLAs. And many of the corporates who are donor, actually on the basis of the number of electoral representatives the party has, they have the certain formula. For instance, I'll give you an example. Tata Group. Is somebody, everybody knows that Tata Group functions based on principle. But they have certain formula they follow for certain formula. And the formula is that the party which has the maximum representative will get the maximum donation.
One minute. Zafar Saab, you are a banker yourself. Here is a party getting 85% of the electoral bonds. The BJP doesn't have 85% of the MLAs and MPs in this country, but you're getting 85% of the monies through electoral bonds. How can you have a free and fair election?
No, but BJP is a pan-India party. Well, all the other parties is a pan-India party. Can you also, those donors are donating to the party from different parts of the country. Mm-hmm. But these party does not exist in those states. Secondly, it only brings transparency.
How do I get transparency? I don't know which corporate is donating to which party. Where is the transparency?
Rajdeep, what system we had earlier? The cash system. And Congress party and many other parties want that system go back to that old system of where they are receiving cash. Part of the cash will go to their leaders and part of the cash will go to their to the party. This was clearly black money was playing during the election. Now everything is being accounted for. It comes through a particular account, a designated account of that donor, which is maintained with certain banks, SBI Bank, and bank issues a bond which can be encashed in the designated branches. So everything is transparent.
Okay, you're claiming, sir, if you're saying, let me push you one more time before I go to the Congress spokesperson. You're saying it's transparent.
Please go ahead.
If I want to know, which are the corporates that have donated to the BJP and which have donated to Congress, Trinamool Congress, how do I find out? How do I know what is the quid pro quo that has been stuck between? Only there are a few trusts like Tata's which may go public with it, but most don't. So how do I know? How can you say the system is transparent?
No, Rajdeep, when they were accepting cash, how much cash they were receiving?
No, that was terrible. No. But why? How is this better?
So there is an improvement in the system, what we had.
Okay,
now we have a transparent system where everything is.
How do I know how much money has been given? Which corporate gives how much money? But I want to Anshul Abjit. According to Syed Zafar Islam, the earlier system of which the Congress was the beneficiary was cash and carry. Then you were in power and the belief was maximum money went to the Congress and it was in cash. Now at least it's coming through the bonds to State Bank of India and therefore he believes it's an improvement on the past. Your response?
Let me use very harsh words, Rajdeep. It's a legalized scam. There is nothing else what it is. And Mr. Zafar Islam has made a shocking connection between an enormous amount of funds and winnability in an election, which he seems to suggest is a self-perpetuating system. So you keep winning and the more money you get. That's exactly what the level playing field is not about. You need a level playing field, and this program is all about creating that level playing field. Transparency, yeah, sure, it's very, very transparent, but it's transparent only for the party in power, for the BJP. And, we've been saying all along, they know who's going to vote, who's funded them, they know who hasn't, and they perfected the art of vendetta politics. So there is a fakeness on one side.
But what is the better system, Anshul? What is the better system, given the fact that the earlier system was seen to be heavily loaded in favor of cash collection, and that your party was seen to be a beneficiary? Give me a better system. What's the better system then?
You can't replace it by another skewed system. You've also institutionalized bribery here. For the first time in our electoral process, corruption has become a statutory part. There is extortion here. There are all kinds of allegations. And the second point is, there were severe objections to the passing of the electoral bond scheme by the members of the team, by the members of the finance ministry. It was hastily done. We all know the expose that came out. It was hastily done in 3 days. The RBI had severe objections to the particular scheme. It said that it's going to lead to a lot of black money, cross-border counterfeiting of notes. And, there were a number of objections that were raised. But regardless of that, we know that the BJP is not some paragon of virtue. But, the shameless way which it is pressed through this bill, I mean, it's astonishing. And that is the bigger problem. The overreach of the executive and the shameless manner in which it goes through bill after bill, whether it's environmental bills, it's IT bills, whether it's farm laws, whether it's citizenship, anything else. The executive power of this government is overreaching and it's alarming. And this is the larger question.
Yeah, no, I want you to respond, Zafar Islam, because you were in the Rajya Sabha and the belief is this was passed as a money bill, right? It was passed as a money bill because you were afraid of whether you would have the numbers at the time and, you might have been defeated in the Rajya Sabha. Let's be honest. I asked you a question that you've not answered. How do I, as a citizen of this country, know which corporate is giving how much of money to which political party? Should I not have the right to know, as I have in the United States?
I'm really surprised, Rajdeep. You are not appreciating the efforts of the government to bring transparency. Having said that, let me ask you.
What is the transparency? Sorry, Mr. Zafar Islam. No, you're not. No. Please tell me, how is it transparent? I'm a tax-paying citizen in this country and you get 2,500 crores and the other parties get a fraction of that. You're calling it transparent when you don't tell me who's paying. Who is that corporate who's giving you all the money?
That system is so transparent that you know today that how much BJP is getting, how much the other party is getting. Secondly, in earlier system, You never had that transparency. How much cash being collected by Congress party? Can you give me a figure, please?
Good point.
How much a party leader was taking out of that cash to their home? Do you have the numbers? Today, there is a transparent process there. A corporate, whoever is the corporate, and not on the basis of quid pro. It is basis of the, they feel that they need to contribute to a certain political party. They are contributing.
No, but what would, okay, given what you are saying, Tarlochan Shastri, there's a point in what Zafar Islam says to the extent that the earlier system was based on pure cash or large amounts of cash at election time. Is there a better answer between electoral bonds that are seen as opaque because I don't know who is paying how much of money to which party and the earlier cash system? Is there a better system?
You see, I think there is a lot of confusion which is being created deliberately. The earlier system, in the electoral trust case, the Central Information Commission had given a clear ruling that the audited accounts of the political party shall be made transparent and public. ADR had fought and won that. And after that, every corporate that was funding the political parties was publicly known. So it is not that it was not known earlier. Now, on this cash business which they are raising, I have no idea about the cash. These political parties probably know it better. If there was cash which was being given earlier, there is nothing which prevents cash from being given now. Just by saying that cash shall not be given because there is electoral bonds is very naive. I can say, based on our work in the villages of South India, that huge amounts of cash are used in the elections very freely, and even after the electoral bond. So the cash is a red herring. Let's just for cash pehle bhi hota tha, abhi bhi hai. It is not that cash has disappeared because of electoral bonds. But the earlier system of corporate funding is much more transparent. It was much more transparent because, you know, there are so many electoral trusts from various corporates and everybody knew who is funding whom. It was public knowledge. So, this bonds thing is completely
could the solution, Tarlochan Shastri, be to bring electoral bonds under RTI? That if
I have a question to Tarlochan Shastri ji.
Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely, it should be brought under.
You're saying it should be brought under RTI. Zafar Islam, why don't you bring it under RTI? Then doodh ka doodh, pani ka pani. Then you have every right to come and say we have built a transparent system. If I as a voter want to know which corporate has given how much money to which political party, it should come under RTI. Why is it not? Why am I not being given that information?
They will never do it. They only want transparency for the BJP.
Yeah, go ahead. Let me ask Mr. Shastri that today you are saying that cash can be accepted by the political party. Earlier there was no limit. Today only there is 2,000 rupees maximum you can contribute to a political party as cash. So that restriction was never there. Today that restriction is there. And you will have to give your name, 2,000 rupees, maximum you can contribute. Earlier, Congress party was billions and billions of rupees they were accepting as cash.
Sir, you're not answering my question.
What about your
Let me come. I'm coming to that also. I'm coming to that.
Anshul, please let him complete. Yes.
No. Secondly, that income tax returns, when you file, you have to give that declaration how much you have contributed to for political funding, or which party you have funded.
Why don't you bring it under the right to information? Why don't you bring it under the right to information?
No, you don't have to. You
don't
have to.
Second, Rajdeep, system is improving. Transparency.
This is grossly incorrect.
Being introduced by our
being
introduced by our government.
Okay,
it is not by earlier government. They never advocated for transparency.
Okay, you're using the word transparency very loosely, but Professor Shastri, very quickly, you're objecting to, you're saying that if I don't have to declare in my income tax returns how much money I've given under the bonds. Is that what you're saying?
No, you have to declare, a political party has to declare, I gave 500 crores in electoral bonds.
Yes.
But it need not declare to which party it gave. Earlier, they had to declare through the electoral trust scheme. They had to declare which party they gave.
Okay, you were smiling. You were smiling through this, Sanjay Hegde. What has amused you?
No, there's a very easy answer. There is one source where all electoral bonds come out. That's the SBI. Let the SBI declare that who were the people who bought electoral bonds and what the numbers were. Let the parties declare the numbers of electoral bonds that they accepted. So we know then there is total transparency. You have a mechanism for channelizing the money, you have a mechanism for distributing it, and you have a mechanism for informing the public. That is exactly what the political parties do not want, especially the party in power, which has an unfair advantage under this. The unfair advantage is that it knows who is paying, who is not paying. It knows whether to take corrective action in whatever manner it can. And if somebody is funding the opposition, what to do about it?
Anshul, Avjit, at the end of the day, we've seen in the past, corporates go in the direction of whoever they believe is going to win an election. That's the nature. Money goes in the direction of the big winner. Tomorrow, if the Congress was looking like a winning proposition, who knows? Some of these same companies that are giving electoral bonds to the BJP will turn to the Congress.
Come on, this is too trite. I mean, how many times has this been proven wrong? I mean, in 2004, so many times it's been proven wrong. This is the entire argument that we are against. You cannot create a level playing field till you presume this kind of an outcome. So what we are saying is there should be full disclosure of what has happened. This is completely an opaque scheme. We've been saying it all along. This encourages extortion. There is bribery. There is corruption in this particular scheme, and and this kind of encapsulate everything that the government is doing. It's crookedness, it's duplicity, it's deceitfulness. This is what the government is about, and it is encapsulated in this particular scheme. Everything that the government does, only the government does it for its own benefit or the benefit of the BJPs. The other important point of this scheme, which I want to touch upon, is the fact that people who have not voted, who have actually been detractors of this government, who are not funding this government, a record of them is kept. So there is a loyalty and a disloyalty test which is simultaneously going on, just like in colonialism it was. So it completely mimics the colonial state in that sense. So there's an archive of people who have not funded the state, and that is kept. And that is another problem. So it can go after those people. So therefore, it's a malicious program as well, apart from it being not transparent at all.
Let me therefore, final word, Zafar Islam, because, I think any viewer who's watching this program will ask this question. Yes, you moved for electoral bonds to move away from the earlier cash system, but you've created more problems and more credibility questions with this electoral bond scheme by keeping it opaque. Just open it up, give it under RTI. Just resolve the problem, Zafar Islam. What stops the BJP from saying we will put it under RTI?
Rajdeep, I was surprised when Anshul, Congress spokesperson, is trying to preach a convert. We are already a convert. They need to convert first themselves, because they have followed a system where complete opaqueness was there. They were accepting cash, they were accepting
bribe. Forget their system. I am talking about today. Every time I ask you the question, you tell me about the Congress. I'm asking about you.
What the Congress was doing.
They were the true sinner.
No, forget about them. You're in power for 8 years. Please comment on the electoral bond scheme and what it has done to our polity. Has it created a level playing field?
We are the one who has taken initiative to
bring it under RTI. I will keep saying that, and I find that the spokesperson will not give me a straight answer. Okay, I'm going to leave it there because I keep asking this. Bring the electoral bond scheme under RTI, and maybe that's one of the proposals before the Supreme Court. Will that happen? Will the court ensure transparency? We'll wait and see. Don't expect it from our political parties. Courts more likely to do it. I appreciate my guests joining us. We are entering another election season, therefore important to ensure that at least there is some kind of a level playing field. Let's turn from there to our ground report tonight, because across the country at the moment, unexpected rainfall means several parts of the country are reeling under rain. We are in October, but the monsoon hasn't gone away. Many villages, for example, in UP's Gonda district remain completely submerged in flood waters. Residents say the administration has not been able to reach all the maroon people yet. The DM of Ambedkar Nagar district has sparked off a controversy, saying the government is not Zomato to give doorstep delivery of relief. Take a look at tonight's ground report.
Floods in Uttar Pradesh have impacted thousands. A large number of people are waiting for help, especially food. So when a district magistrate sarcastically says government is not running Zomato to reach food at the doorstep, it angered many.
बाढ़ चौकी क्या पर्पस है? आप लोग घर पे रहेंगे, हम लोग घर पे पहुंचवाएंगे खाना। जोमेटो सर्विस थोड़ी चला रहे हैं हम लोग। सर कैसे जोमेटो थोड़ी चला रहा है सरकार?
When confronted by India Today, the Ambedkar Nagar district magistrate evaded questions and later issued a clarification.
बाढ़ चौकी में लोगों को आने के लिए लोगों को प्रेरित किया जा रहा है। बाढ़ चौकी में सिर्फ खाने की व्यवस्था नहीं है, वहां पर रहने के लिए व्यवस्था, प्रॉपर लाइटिंग की व्यवस्था, शौचालय की व्यवस्था, पीने के लिए गर्म पानी की व्यवस्था और मेडिकल सुविधा भी उपलब्ध है।
While it is impossible to provide food to all at home, reaching relief shelters is also easier said than done. India Today on Friday went deeper into flood-affected areas of multiple badly impacted districts. 50,000 people in 500 villages of Gonda district are struggling to cope with the floods. Sushila is one among them. Water entered her small house. She says her family is worried about water level continuing to rise, though it hasn't rained much today. Sushila claims no one from the administration has reached out in several weeks now.
तब करिया सब पानी लाग रहा पाकुल पर, इतना पानी रहा पाकुल पर, थोड़ा पानी रहा, बहुत पानी रहा, हम सब बहुत परेशानी में, तो हमें सब जानी था ना, दूसरा क्यों कहा जाना है, कमाने यार दूर से पूरी चाटू पूरी तनका पर सब्जी हुए लाओ, उसमें गदान का दे जाता और कब दिया था, और कौन चीज बांट देनी,
खाना पानी सोचे नहीं मिलता।
Ram Riti is drying wheat as the sun is finally out. Children in the area, she says, are missing their studies. The school remains underwater.
खाना पानी सोचे नहीं मिलता है और भैंस गोरू हैं वो भी परेशान हैं और जो है हर एक चीज का परेशानी है।
कुछ मदद पहुंची आप तक?
कुछ नहीं।
The district administration says all efforts are being made to provide help to the needy.
गोंडा में इस समय 142 गांव प्रभावित हैं और हमारी जो घाघरा है वो उसका जल स्तर घट रहा है। हमारा पूरी उनका लंच पैकेट की तैयारी है, बट रहे हैं, आपने देखा भी होगा, बनाए जा रहे हैं।
Such visuals, not just houses, but also the farmlands of farmers have been severely affected, and that's the scenario from ground zero, what we are reporting, and that's a adverse situation in the state of Uttar Pradesh. Though CM Yogi Adityanath has ordered administration to go in full mode and help them, but it's hard to identify how much people are getting help in such scenario. With cameraman Neeraj Kumar, Samarth Srivastava for India Today.
Zomato in flood-hit Gonda, really? Time for a break. On the other side, our good news today story. It comes from Jalpaiguri in West Bengal. We'll tell you more. You're watching the news today. News without the noise.
I noticed something new. You started using a new body lotion.
Funny.
I'm so sorry for the delay. I was on another call. It just kept going on.
No, Papa. You were in a steam bath.
Steam bath? At home?
To do steam bath he takes.
Go to your homework.
It's 7:20 already. The kickoff's in 5 minutes. Get all the boys. We have the entire place to ourselves, man. Not working?
Of course it is. But I don't want you guys to be using this bathroom. So use the other one.
So sorry for the delay. I was on another call. It just kept going on.
No, Papa. You have been a steam bath.
Steam bath at home.
Two steam bath he takes.
Go to your homework.
Everyone's busy finding what's trending. You're busy finding out why. India Today, for those who research before reacting. Download the India Today app now.
Welcome back. A mosque was allegedly vandalized and attacked by unknown people in Gurugram earlier this week. Now the incident has once again heightened tensions in an area where local politicians and elders are struggling to bring the peace. What really happened in Gurugram? Take a look.
Broken chairs and locks. This is the mosque in Bhora Kala village in Gurugram that was allegedly vandalized on Wednesday evening. The Muslim community claims a group of people entered the mosque while they were offering namaz and manhandled many of them.
जब हम नमाज पढ़ रहे थे तो बाहर से कुछ लोग आवाज़ें करते हुए आ रहे थे कि मस्जिद को जला दो, बाहर निकालो इन्हें, यहाँ कोई नमाज नहीं होगी, कोई मस्जिद नहीं है, बाहर निकलो, अल्लाह अकबर हो गई तुम्हारी नमाज। ऐसे करते करते अंदर आ गए और उन्होंने देखा कि यहाँ पे लोग हम नमाज पढ़ रहे हैं, तो हम लोगों के उन्होंने हाथ पकड़े नमाज पढ़ते पढ़ते और हमको बाहर निकालने के लिए फेंक के मारा।
The FIR states the attackers threatened to kill the victims if they don't leave the locality.
इन्फॉर्मेशन इकट्ठी की जा रही है और जो भी इसमें शामिल होंगे उनके खिलाफ कार्रवाई की जाएगी। अभी ये इन्वेस्टिगेशन शुरुआती दौर में है और उसमें सारी चीज़ें जब इन आदमियों के बारे में इनसे पूछताछ हो जाएगी जब भी सारे फैक्ट्स पता चलेंगे कि क्या असल वजह क्या रही है।
The vandalism sparked protest in the area. A few Hindus in the area alleged that the targeted building was not a mosque but a private property which the Muslims had started using for namaz.
मस्जिद है कहाँ? मस्जिद तो कभी नहीं है। आज ये वो तो फर्श बिछा मस्जिद होगी वो? मेरे कमरे में चलो, मैं दिखाता हूँ कालीन बिछाया कि नहीं, वो मस्जिद है क्या? वो मेरा पर्सनल कमरा है। ये तो झूठ बोलते।
The complaint of vandalism was withdrawn on Thursday after the local councillor and village heads worked out a compromise.
विवाद कुछ नहीं है, ना कोई विवाद का, कुछ शरारती तत्व होते हैं माहौल खराब करने के लिए, जो कि चाहते हैं कि हमारा गांव में जो इतना प्यार मोहब्बत बन रहा है इसको कैसे ही खराब कैसे करें।
हम गांव के साथ प्यार मोहब्बत से रहते हैं, आज तक भी हमारे साथ कोई ऐसी बात नहीं हुई।
यही वजह है कि आपने फिर कंप्लेन वापस ले ली?
हाँ, मैंने वापस ले ली। भाई गाँव से मेरे सारे भाई मेरे साथ है तो फिर मेरे को क्या लेना है।
Gurugram had seen communal tensions earlier too when Hindu groups stopped Muslims from offering namaz in public spaces. The latest face-off indicates the ties between the two communities remain fragile. With Himanshu Gupta in Gurugram, Bureau Report, India Today.
Now look, in a country like ours, all is not depressing. That story should depress us because it reveals polarization taking place on the ground. But at a time when Hindu-Muslim disputes keep making headlines, there are a group of people in West Bengal who earlier this week rose above such divides to actually save lives. When flash floods hit the Durga Puja celebrations in Jalpaiguri last week, a few people risked their own lives and jumped into the raging water and saved many. These unsung heroes included people from all faiths. I leave you tonight with a good news story, with a story of hope, in the belief that at the end of the day, Indians will celebrate inclusivity and tolerance above all else. Think about it. You stay well, stay safe. Good night, Shubhratri, Jai Hind, Namaskar. Watch our Good News Today report. Bye for now.
The Durga Puja celebrations in Jalpaiguri in West Bengal took a tragic turn on October 8 as flash floods swept the procession. 8 people drowned during the immersion of goddess Durga's idols. An even bigger tragedy was averted by these alert citizens who rose above religious divides to place humanity above all. While devotees were crying for help, Manik Muhammad, Faridul Islam, Tafidul Islam, Sachin Nayak, David Oran, Pintu Sheikh and Raj Oran jumped into the dangerous flood waters to save lives, risking their own.
বাকি যে কয়েকজন ভাসি গেছে যদি আর কেউ নামতো তাহলে বাকি লোকগুলো বাঁচত আর মানুষের প্রাণ বাঁচা সবচেয়ে মহত্বের কাজ এবং খুব ভালো কাজ
India Today spoke to one of the families that survived the tragedy.
चारों तरफ पानी फैल गया जितना कोशिश है सख्त से कोशिश करो पकड़ने के लिए जा ना गिरे लेकिन क्या करे पानी जब और बार गया सर के ऊपर से चलने लगा तो पैर का मिट्टी खिसल गया तो अब हम लोग चारों जन से हाथ से खुल गया भीतर होके चारों जन चारों तरफ चला गया.
As survivors recounted the horror, it was clear they had cheated death by inches.
Suddenly, means first flood is coming, hitting such a way that our hand cannot be control each other. Means we miss our hand. And after missing the hand, I see myself, I was in the water, underwater. So that was a very horrible situation happening with me.
They were there to celebrate the spirit of harmony. When disaster struck, these unsung heroes did not look away.
मैं एक्चुअली विसर्जन है ना विसर्जन करने के लिए गया था तो विसर्जन करने का टाइम में देख रहा पानी थोड़ा स्लो था पहले जब अचानक से पानी बढ़ गया पानी बढ़ने के कारण से बहुत सारे लोग बह गए मगर कोई नीचे जाके बचाने के लिए नहीं जा रहे फिलहाल पब्लिक को जाना चाहिए पब्लिक को भी जाने के लिए नहीं दे रहे हम लोग लगभग बोले तो 50-60 आदमी निकाले नीचे से जाकर.
It is acts like these which reaffirm our faith in humanity. Bureau Report, India Today.
I don't read the news. I read between the lines to tell you the true version of events, the true story of our times.
To document grief, the toughest assignment for any journalist to be.
From those who matter.
Women politicians going to stick up for each other.
Of those who should matter. I document the truth. I don't distort the truth. I don't glamorize the truth. I don't gloss over the truth.
The ghosts of India's contentious medieval history have come knocking again.
I hustle for the truth. On the ground, in the newsroom, in the studio. I don't try to grab eyeballs.
I inform you to make you see the point.
To the Point with Preeti Chaudhary. At these times, only on India Today.
Remember them? Amber Heard and Johnny Depp have both been busy with their lives ever since the defamation trial. And everything seems to be going quite well for Johnny. He's returning to movies with the role of King Louis XV in Jeanne du Barry. Has found love in his former lawyer, Joel Rich, and recently made 20 times the profit for his Queensland mansion. This isn't just any house, but it is the place where the infamous incident of Depp losing his finger took place. Amongst the many fights that were mentioned in court of the former couple, this incident was one to stick out quite a bit. He sold this mansion in Australia for $40 million. The house had 10 rooms with 10 bathrooms and a wine cellar with a capacity of 2,000 bottles along with a go-karting ground within that premises. To get into the details of this infamous incident, Heard had been throwing bottles at the actor, 2 bottles in fact, the second one resulting in a cut finger. Amber Heard did not agree to this version and said that Johnny Depp had instead been throwing those bottles due to anger, and that's how he cut his own finger. The incident has taken place in 2015 and has been brought up in trial multiple times. Now, as the dust settles on the defamation trial, Johnny Depp has been seen doing quite a lot of concerts with his close friend Jeff Beck. And Amber Heard, on the other hand, is peacefully living her life in Spain. She will be seen next in Aquaman 2.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices.